Michael Gamble, the lead on the next Mass Effect, stated that many of those who were leaders on the Shepard trilogy are leading the next game. Mass Effect runs in their blood, so what do we know about the next iteration? Is it still in production? When is it set? What should we expect? This video has the answers to all those questions and more. First and foremost, what do we know for sure? Well, we know the game will be set after the events of Mass Effect 3, as per the teaser trailer, where Liara is traveling through space ravaged by the Reaper War, and you can hear audio clips of events throughout the trilogy. She lands on a planet and finds what we assume is Shepard's N7 armor. Liara is around 100 in the trilogy, and her species can live to around 1000 years of age. Therefore, the next installment must be set between 1 to 900 years in the future. If you look at the key art release that represents the new protagonist, inside the jacket contains a scene at a bar. In the bar are many species you've come to love from the Milky Way, as well as the Geth and the Angara. So the Geth are still around, and also somehow the Andromeda Galaxy has connected with the Milky Way. This is also confirmed in the teaser trailer. The very first time Ryder takes off in his Tempest ship, Godspeed is set over comms, which can be heard in the trailer. Michael Gamble also confirmed on Twitter this was intentional. So Andromeda might be in the fold, something that could be explained with more advanced tech, meaning that it's very likely set minimum 600 years in the future, as it took the Andromeda Initiative that long to reach the galaxy. Wouldn't it be hilarious that after all the struggles of those sent to Andromeda, 601 years was enough time to develop tech that lets them almost instantly travel between galaxies? Speaking of advanced tech, today's sponsor uses it to keep you protected. Your PC and devices are constantly being targeted by thieves after your juicy data, and sometimes something far worse. Nord is the fastest VPN on the market and comes with built-in malware protection, which also automatically keeps you safe from pesky ads, data thieves, demons, and phishing scams. Okay, maybe not demons, but I like to think that they're the ones wanting to track what you're doing in the nasty corners of the internet. If you're online shopping, Nord can sniff out a fake store. If you're using public Wi-Fi, Nord keeps naughty fingers out of your info. Some people like using VPNs to get around location locks and watch whatever they want on Netflix, but you shouldn't do that. You should though go to nordvpn.com/Dantix and check out the best VPN on the market. So thanks to NordVPN for sponsoring this video, and let's get right back into it. So I'm extremely confident that it's this timeline that they're hinting at, beyond 600 years in the future. If it is, a few characters could be returning. Liara, of course, and more depending on your choices in the game. Grunt, who could also live to over 1000 years old, EDI, Legion, and Javik, since we don't know the lifespan of Protheans, and everyone else seems primitive to them, so it's only natural that they have long lives. It's also entirely possible that the Andromeda crew are all alive, though that doesn't excite me at all, sorry. But what we know for sure, given that we've all but locked down the time that's passed, is that Shepard will not be returning. It's also confirmed by the devs that his story is over. Mac Walter series writer states, "Well, I can't get into the details, but the idea is that we've agreed to tell a story that doesn't relate necessarily to any of the Shepard events at all whatsoever." This is fairly conclusive and makes a lot of sense. They want to set the game in the future and tell their own story, which means though Shepard won't be around. His impact might still be felt and have lasting effects on the universe, we just don't know how. I can guarantee though the game will mention the trilogy in multiple occasions. It's just close to impossible not to, given the scales of things that happened. With Liara returning, that's another character that can spill the beans on what happened back in the day. We also know that Michael Gamble has been a supporter of the Paragon and Renegade system, so it's likely it will return or something similar instead of the system we got back in Andromeda. We also know there is no intention to be as stupid and comical as the characters were in Veilguard and even Andromeda. Yes, Andromeda was a bit too wacky for my taste, and you can see just how many times the game launches into jokes in this video here. It's actually hilarious. But Gamble replies to the comment, "Mass Effect has always had its fair share of humor and silliness, with serious characters put in humorous situations," meaning he truly does understand what made the trilogy great. Andromeda felt like it tried to be the Citadel DLC, without earning it over 3 titles. He says regarding tone questions, Mass Effect will maintain the mature tone of the original trilogy. This is all I'm going to say for now. Thank the goddess. This was indirectly acknowledging that the tone of Andromeda was very different to the trilogy. Now, we know that Michael Gamble will be leading the charge when it comes to developing this title, and he's always been involved in some way with the trilogy and Andromeda. Unfortunately, during the last legs of Dragon Age: The Veilguard, him and the team he had built to start development on the next Mass Effect was pulled away to help finish Veilguard. You can certainly see the Mass Effect influence in it, as it does feel like a Frankenstein monster of hands touching different parts of the title. Some parts feel like Mass Effect and some parts feel, well, Corinne Bouche. The ending, major plot points, and the results of your choices, if I could put money on anything, were most likely due to Mike's team. I digress. This means that the development of the next Mass Effect has notably been delayed. It's been 4 years since the official teaser dropped, and it's looking like production has just started. As per February the 3rd, Mike mentions they are still in pre-production. What a bittersweet thing to learn on my birthday. Mike took to Twitter to reassure fans that Corinne and a lot of BioWare staff had been let go, but production of Mass Effect will continue. That's good news, but BioWare is now down to under 100 developers, and seems for the first time in a long while, they are only working on a single title. This could be a good thing. We see here Mike stating they are still in pre-production when Culture Crave mentions there are fewer than 100 employees working at the studio. We have Parrish on the project still, and he was a lead cinematic and presentation animator going back to Mass Effect 1. We have Derek Watts, who was an art director in the original trilogy, and we have Preston, who has been with BioWare for 24 years. Lead designer on the trilogy, KOTOR, and Neverwinter Nights. It seems like Mike is aware that people are worried about Mass Effect after what they saw in Dragon Age: Veilguard. Mike says both games are from the studio, but Mass Effect is Mass Effect. How you bring a sci-fi RPG to life is different than other genres or IPs, and has to have different kinds of love. When told not to Pixar Mass Effect like they did with Dragon Age, Mike confirms that Mass Effect is photorealistic and will be as long as he is running it. I personally think 100 devs for pre-production isn't a bad thing. It lets leads really control their teams and be more agile. I think BioWare's problem was they had a lot of hands with vastly different opinions, sorry to say, pulling them in different directions. Imagine having a shopping trolley with one bad wheel. It keeps drifting you away no matter how hard you push. With a small, talented team focused entirely on Mass Effect, this means they can make the game they want rather than a vanity project. I'm not at all saying that people deserve to be let go, but rather that we shouldn't lose hope. There were a lot of amazing devs that were let go, including a writer who worked on all the modern scenes that you love. So it's obviously terrible, but from what I've seen, things are looking up. I digress. When we look at the poster for Mass Effect Will Continue, we see a very obvious Geth outline. Will Geth be the antagonist in this series? They've always played a part, so perhaps with the Reapers gone, there's a power vacuum and they rise up. Also, after releasing a video that needed decoding, we see this.
I can see it. How did we miss this? Exactly. The Council will be furious. Although they should know by now not to underestimate human defiance. Perhaps was the most endearing fate.
It seems there are factions at work. My guess is Organics lean on Geth for help, and the Council races are all on one side, and humans and non-Council races are on the other. Yes, this means Batarians with humans potentially. It kind of doesn't make sense, but it kind of does if you think about how the galaxy was closed off after all the mass relays were destroyed. Batarians are very close to human colonies. Perhaps we relied on Geth to help rebuild them, and that gave the Geth a lot of power to rise up. The transmission sounds like Liara is saying, "How did we miss this?" when talking to a Geth. Exactly, the Council will be furious, but they should know by now not to underestimate human defiance. So what have humans done to mix it all up? Well, we'll have to wait and see. The following text was included in the N7-day trailer. Andromeda distress signal detected. Audio transcript. Although they should know by now not to underestimate human. Redacted. Classified. Review briefing materials on official Alliance comms channels. Security breach detected. Contact Systems Alliance. Epsilon Oculon Nebula. Okay, so no doubt the Andromeda initiative will be brought into the fold somehow, and the top line just hints at that. The next line though is what we heard once decoded from Liara. Not to underestimate human defiance. So my best bet is we're sitting outside the council and leading some other groups. Possibly we're still named the Alliance as per the third line. We quite possibly lead things from the Citadel, which is still parked outside of Earth, giving humans a lot of power. The breach of security is just suggesting the next title has been revealed. The fifth Mass Effect game, Epsilon being 5. Though technically the game is closer to Mass Effect 4 than 5, since Andromeda didn't retain the naming conventions, and the devs claimed naming Andromeda 4 would be a disservice. According to his Twitter, Gamble also wants new aliens, so perhaps expect an invading force like the Tyranid, or like the invading force in Andromeda, which we won't talk about, or newly discovered aliens on unexplored planets. We also get a look at some concept cities. This one has an alien feel to it with the architecture, but notably the red mist is something we haven't seen before. This could very well be the same planet without the red mist from a most likely red dwarf star. We see a Turian below, so if my theory on the split of races into factions is correct, this would just be council space. Though we do see a Solarian and a Krogan in the background, so maybe this is just early concept. Notably, transports haven't changed much looks-wise. Then we have the N7 trailer where we get a good look at the protagonist. Seems like a female version, but we can't be sure. This is all in-game footage as confirmed by Mike Gamble. It's looking great, but we've come to expect that from the Mass Effect titles. It's no doubt intentionally dark and washed out to keep the video mysterious, but if you up the brightness, you can see the model is seamless. Now, I'm gonna do something, and this is not just the pad out time, I promise, but listen to the audio again without the footage and tell me below just how many familiar sounds you hear. So at the start you hear the ambient ticks behind the footsteps and music. You first heard this in Mass Effect 1 when in areas without music to add some tension to the exploration. The music itself builds into the Mass Effect theme's jingle. We have a lot of typical gravitas to the music. The agent pulls out their pistol and we hear it unfold as the agent walks off to the classic title screen tune. This teaser's title pops up to a different tune though. Listen to it. It has more of an intrigue feel to it, further adding weight to the next Mass Effect's direction. Now, right at the start of the video, we see something in the shadows. If you watch it closely, it looks to be turning its head. I put it to you that it's a Krogan. This is a big reveal that a Krogan could be in a Mass Effect game, but there must be a reason why they're here at the start of the trailer. Does this mean we're getting a Krogan crewmate? We better, it's not Mass Effect without one, and this isn't really a big reveal. Come on BioWare, we need more than this. Now these containers have a 9 written on the side, but they don't contain, pun intended, much else of note. Why are they here? This trailer was purposely built. Perhaps they're set dressing, but maybe there's some hidden meaning. I quickly went back before making this video to Mass Effect 1, 2 and 3 to see if I can find something similar, and yes, there are containers much like this, but I couldn't find a purpose beyond set dressing. If you have any ideas, let me know below. Now we see the protagonist walking towards a ray shield, and outside is a ship with its ramp down on a hazy yellow atmosphered world. The ramp is in the middle of the ship, so it's not the same as the first we saw in the 2020 teaser with Liara. BioWare have a very typical way of designing their protagonist ships. They're normally long and sleek, and are purpose designed to represent the protagonist and their journey. So unless the protagonist has a lot of journeys to the fridge, this block of a ship is probably not theirs. Revealing the ship and the protagonist would be revealing too much now, wouldn't it? Now, as you know, I'm a Massive Effect fan, and even my channel's theme is based around it. I have high hopes for the future and remain cautiously optimistic. you won't find a channel with more insight into the up and coming next Mass Effect, I absolutely guarantee it. So be sure to follow for everything BioWare. Ciao friends.